All right, guys, shall we kick off? So, where were we at? Legal or regulatory requirements? I think we're all in agreement. This is it's a major issue. We're just going to touch on it. We've touched on it, but it's a whole topic on its own. My advice to you guys will be, this is an area of serious competence that you must start really engaging, and more often than not, you may need help. So get advice, talk to people who are versed in this, but ultimately, engage, engage, engage. We can't do without government, even if we wanted to, all right? So, we might as well just get onto that engagement, all right? Projects and project management discipline are typically the tools of choice leveraged by organizational leaders to deliver on strategic direction. Okay, so you can imagine how many projects are going on at Google right now. Sorry, not Google. It's called what? It's called what these days? Alphabet. The holding company of Google is now called Alphabet. You can imagine how many projects are going on at Google, Alphabet, at Apple, at Microsoft. Without a strong project management discipline, nothing will get done. Things will continue on and on and on and on, right? Who's seen the new iPhone 7? Who's seen sneak previews of it? So that's a project about to, for us to see the results of a number of years of discussion and project management. All right, project management and execution. It provides the ability to apply knowledge, processes, skills, tools, and techniques that enhance the likelihood of success of a wide range of products. Imagine with all this, then it tells you, enhance the likelihood. It's not guaranteed that you'll actually succeed. A focus on the successful delivery of projects, services, or results, a means of achieving organizational strategy and objectives. Okay? Are we clear about that? Anything you want clarification on? All right. All right, so let's look at the project management life cycle. Starting the project, organizing and preparing, carrying out the work, closing the project. So you've got initiating, you've got planning, you've got execution and control, and you've got closing. You see the loop. And as you move along, the costs go. You've got the project charter. Who can tell me what a project charter is? Project charter. Or what do you think a project charter is? Anyone?
I'm just assuming. Like terms of reference.
Terms of reference. Who else wants to try? What's a project charter? Yes, sir. This person too.
It is more to do with the project's goals, what you want to achieve.
Sorry?
It has more to do with goals.
Goals?
What you want to achieve, with the project.
Okay. Who else wants to try? Leonard.
I think it's a project document detailing the elements of the project.
Yeah, basically. It looks at the whole picture, including stakeholders, what you need to do, and stuff like that. All right? Projects are normally broken down into phases. A project phase is a collection of logically related project activities that culminate in the completion of one or more deliverables. These phases are also commonly called work streams. Project phases are typically completed sequentially waterfall, but will overlap in many project situations. Project phasing allows the project to be segmented into logical subsets for ease of management, planning, and control. For example, software development. Wilberforce, just give us some logical processes that you would do when you're doing software dev as a project. He's not in trouble, he's a star.
So normally what we'll do before we begin a project, you will gather requirements from the client. So you get to understand really what does the client want. So you start with that preliminary phase of gathering requirements, then
Wilberforce, I want you to stop there for 1 minute.
yeah.
That's very critical. That's very important what you just said. Requirements. Which lead to what? When you've gotten the requirements from your clients, it leads to what? Where are the IT gurus here? Level. When you get requirements from your client, what does it lead to? Sorry? System design. I'm looking for one word.
Specification document.
Specification document. I'm looking for one word. Which leads to commercial engagement. One word. Starts with an S.
Scope.
Scope. This is the biggest elephant in the room. Have you heard of the word scope creep? Huh? By the end of this video, I'm going to, of this session in the morning today, I'm going to show you guys a video about scope creep and how things can go wrong. A client has not told you, you've done a scope and said, oh, why don't you add on to this? Oh, how about this? Oh, you know, my wife today morning over breakfast told me we need to look at this. If you don't have a document that determines scope, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Would you have a beginning and an end of a project? Never. Every morning, you'll add something else. Thanks, Wilberforce, for that. Common trends along the project management life cycle. Cost of changing the project scope or final project outcome increases significantly over time. You see that elephant here in the room, scope. So you start with a project and then you have $100,000 on that project. In the middle of the project, you pivot, to use Wilberforce's word. You pivot. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to that project? You've changed the scope, haven't you? So what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Ian.
We go back to the slide where you mentioned that some variables are also going to change with that change.
Yes, absolutely. Evo, you wanted to say something?
The objective at the end of the day will not be met, which was initially the intent.
Cost and staffing levels start low during initiation, increase rapidly during planning and execution, and tail off as the project draws to a close. You see this? See, this is this loop. Yeah? The amount of risk and uncertainty will decrease over time. Why is that? Amount of risk and uncertainty will decrease over time. Why is that? Why is that? Any idea? As you progress through the project, the amount of risk and uncertainty decreases over time. Why do you think? Doctor, why do you think that happens? No idea? Samuel?
Because the correct procedures has been taken in place. So the more you proceed, you are very much more clearer that risk are being reduced, and you are already certain that you are likely to be successful.
Even your knowledge about the project increases, isn't it?
Ali, can I ask you something?
Yeah,
can
sure.
a prototype actually be a project on itself? Or
Sorry?
The prototype.
Hmm?
In some instances, you need to have a prototype to come up with a good product,
Hmm?
as you need to test it and run it through the various stages of, say, going through the scope requirements.
Yeah.
Is that a project on its own, or would it be part of a project?
So, remember when we started talking about what's your done? What's your end game? What's a prototype for? So let's take the iPhone 7. Okay? Do you think Apple has done a prototype of it by now? Is the end game the prototype, or is the end game the iPhone 7? So the prototype is part of the project life cycle. It's a stage. Yeah? But you don't do a prototype that's the end game. You get where I'm coming from? The acceptable range of budgetary uncertainty should decrease over time. You know, this issue of budgets and projects there are very few projects worldwide that actually are finalized on budget and on time. Wanda, do you agree with me? Show me a project that is on budget and on time, and I'll show you a white elephant. Yes. They're there. I'm not saying they're not there. They are there, but they are rare. Right? Project management life cycle. The project scope, time, and cost are determined early in the project. Determine those, right? Iterative and incremental life cycles. There is your answer. All right? Project phases intentionally repeat one or more project activities. Iterations, and iterations, Wilberforce can also mean you're trying to pivot. This is not working, but your end game basically remains the same, but you're probably taking a different path. All right? For example, now, you still want to build Bonifo. But you'll probably go back to your team and say, guys, I think we need to look at Android now, not next year. So that's pivoting, but your end game still remains the same. Right? Increments successively add to the functionality of the final deliverable. Adaptive life cycles, agile project management. Now, agile project management, this is a whole new discussion. Okay? As you progress in project management, you'll start understanding about agility, You're doing things in phases. You make sure you sign off on this before you move on to the next one. Intended to identify and rapidly respond to high levels of change and ongoing stakeholder involvement. Okay? Ongoing stakeholder involvement. See, one of the biggest problems with projects is that you have an end game in your mind that you've not communicated with your other stakeholders. At the end of it, you go back to them and tell them, we're done. And the guy tells you, but this is not what we had agreed on. That's why this ongoing stakeholder involvement is critical. And it's all about communication. And we'll cover that in the afternoon today. Okay, so project organization and key roles. Organizational influences on project management. Remember first in the morning we talked about vision, what it is that you want to do, all this stuff that we went through. Yeah, all this stuff. Yeah, you must have something to aspire to, okay? Regulations, policies, methods, and procedures. Motivation, performance, and reward systems. Risk tolerance. What's your risk tolerance? Yeah. Failure tolerance. Failure tolerance. Ian, you got that? Okay. What's your operating environment? Are you operating in an environment that the regulator has no clue about what you're doing? Doesn't know? Doesn't care? Or are you operating in an environment that you have a regulator that is inclusive, that is you're able to engage with, and you're actually able to bring them on board onto that project? See, that's how M-Pesa became successful. I'm sure all of us here have heard about M-Pesa. Who, just in case, anyone who's not heard about M-Pesa here? Initially, when M-Pesa was being developed by Safaricom, there wasn't, the engagement with the regulator wasn't as it should be. But as the project moved on, the regulator came fully on board. And that's why M-Pesa was as successful as it is today. Let me give you some statistics. I mean, us Kenyans, we live with it every day. But 40% of Kenya's gross domestic product passes through the M-Pesa system. 40% of a country's gross domestic product passes to one system. That's how phenomenally successful that has become. Leadership style. Olu, what's your leadership style? Is it my way or the highway? Or is it inclusive? Or is it as a benevolent dictator? Or is it, you know, what's your leadership style?
We have 3 departments technically. It's inclusive. Let me just summarize it. I don't interfere with what happens in each department. Once I'm sure that whoever is leading that particular aspect is in line with what I'm thinking.
What's your leadership style?
We work as a team, so I'll use this word. It's inclusive.
It's inclusive.
Yeah.
Wilberforce.
Yeah, I think
They drink together too. Okay.
yeah, same. It's inclusive, but I'll say it's consultative as well. We consult a lot.
Yep.
I rule with an iron fist.
You rule with an iron fist. Explain that. You're a dictator. It's my
Yes.
way or the highway.
Yeah. I know everything.
You know everything.
Yeah. I'm joking.
All right.
I'm joking. Yeah. In a small startup, you all kind of look at each other with the respect that you need to look at each other with, and you give confidence to the person who says they are good in this skill. So you're kind of in an amalgamation of different skills. So when one person says they can do this, then they must deliver, basically. So we're all equal.
So it's results oriented. Okay.
I can say when I need something, I do my best to reach it.
Tyrion?
I can manage a team.
You can manage your team. Okay. Samuel?
Well, I can manage my team also.
Okay.
And it's been successful since the organization started till date.
Lebo?
More a follower than a leader.
More-
I work with my team.
More a follower
So
than a leader.
We do together, and that's how it's worked successfully.
Okay, so what I can tell you guys is that as far as leadership is concerned, there's no right or wrong. It's what leadership style fits you best. What I can tell you is that you must be true to yourself. You must understand who you are. You must, I think the most important thing about leadership is self-awareness. You must know what you don't know. Let me repeat that. You must know what you don't know. Because the biggest risk for a leader is not knowing what they don't know. Lebo, you seem confused. What don't you understand from what I said? Let me repeat myself. You must know what you don't know.
Okay.
And you must know. And the risk is not knowing what you don't know. Are we clear? First, you must know what you don't know. You can't know everything in this world. Yeah? You can't be a domain expert in everything. You can't be the expert in finance, the expert in product development, the expert in HR. You can't. Nobody is. So that's the first thing. You must know what you don't know. Because then you become humble. You humble yourself to work with people who know more than you. And then the other risk is not knowing what you don't know. Meaning that you think you know everything. Are we together?
The confusion is the balance of how much you should know of what you don't know.
What do you think should be the balance? What do you think should be the balance?
I'm working on that. Maybe
Okay.
you guys can help me.
Let's take the example of leaders that we know. Let's take Steve Jobs. What do you think Steve Jobs knows? Nothing. What do you think Steve Jobs knew?
No, can I clarify for her, like the balance, what I think?
Yes,
is,
please help me out.
For example, I'm a finance person. I know finance. But in my business, I'm not an IT software kind of a person. So I hire somebody who knows about that. And to create a balance, for example, it's like me coming here to understand what's going on, so that when I meet with him and he tells me all these tech stuff, I have an idea what he's talking about.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Please tell us your name. And you needed to tell us your name too.
You want to know how much I don't know? 20 years ago, when I started up my first ISP, my wife asked me how much one of my partners knew. And I said, well, what do you mean? Know about this internet stuff? And I pointed to an A5 piece of paper on a double door. And I said, that's how much Justin knows about this internet stuff. The post-it note that was overlapping it, that's how much I knew. The double door was how much there was to know.
Absolutely. I couldn't have put it better. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. So, Komi, you said something. I asked, how much do you think Steve Jobs knows? You said nothing. Please expound on that.
Yeah, actually, present myself. I'm Komi Aricha. And
you're part of the...
Yes.
Oh, fire. Welcome, Komi.
So actually, what is awesome about Steve Jobs is that many people think that Steve Jobs is an IT guy. He's not an IT girl at all. And it is very difficult to say what he really knows, because he knows everything. Either he knows everything or he knows nothing. That's my point of view, because he attended a design school, a design school. He knows about design, but that's not what he did for Apple. So for me,
what do you think Steve Jobs' core competence was? Yes.
In Steve Jobs' case, it's just like you underrating the role of a designer in a product. The secret of Apple has been the design, the UX, the user experience, and that's the ultimate talent. So Steve Jobs is someone that has worked so well to become an expert in the UX. When you're very good at the UX, a lot of skill sets come into play, which you can't touch. But the ultimate product, you know what you want, you know what you're after. And what is now left is to drive individual skill sets to achieve that aim. Perfection.
You know, this leadership issue with projects, it's actually a very critical issue. It's probably one of the most critical. And we, you know, everybody here, when I ask them their leadership style, I'm not sure whether you, let me rephrase that. What I want to say is that know what your leadership style is. There's no right or wrong. But stay true to yourself on that. Stay true to yourself, because authenticity for a leader is the most important, is one of the most important things. Being authentic, understanding who you are. Okay? Now, back to Steve Jobs. Somebody talked about user experience. What do you think Jobs' core competency was? Leonard, do you want to help us? I'll give it to that gentleman first before you go to... Please, when you answer, your name, and then give us your comments.
Tito Tladi from Empower AL. I think Steve Jobs had a very good product design.
Product design.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not how to implement it, but how to see it from the customer perspective, from the client perspective. So he would have a vision of how the product should look like, should function, and then how the client should interact with a product.
Okay.
And then he would now translate that vision to the people who can now manifest the package into a concrete product.
Okay, great. Who wants? Leonard? Okay, ladies first.
No, it's just to add to what he's saying. I don't know if everybody knows the story where Steve Jobs asked his designers to make him an iPod, and they made an iPod. He said, I want it to be the smallest thing, so they made it, and then they gave him the prototype. When they gave it to him, he threw it into a fish tank, and bubbles came out. He was like, you see, there's still more space in that. That's why there's bubbles coming out. Make it smaller. Go back and make it smaller.
Yes, Leonard.
I also think product promotion, like marketing the product. Because he would come out, launch a product, explain it to you in a way that you would really want to use it.
Okay. Who else? Yes, Wilberforce.
Sorry, I think Steve Jobs was more of a dictator in a way that if you don't do the way he wants, then
it's his way or the highway.
You just go to the highway and just go home. Yeah, so he didn't mince his words. He just say, I want it like this, and it's that way. So there's no compromise about that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. All of these are probably correct. But what was the most important thing? What was the most important thing? I think one thing that Jobs really focused on is the customer experience. So the customer experience is a combination of all these. The user experience, customer perspective, marketing. Look, do you know that Apple has really not invented anything? Eh? You guys are aware of that? There was a product before the iPod, MP3s, the Walkman. There were phones before the iPhone. But who created the smartphone? And the ability to be able to cannibalize their own products. Who has that sort of boldness? Do you know when the iPhone came out, the iPod sales collapsed? Totally collapsed. Okay. So, back to project management. Leadership style. Yes? Yeah.
Leadership style. In our case, you have two sets of teams. You have the management team, the business team, and then you have the project team. So most of the time there's conflict. As now we need to ship these products as soon as possible. But then again, we have the developers or the technical team who have their own schedules as well. So, and there's that point that we raise that we let people who know what they're doing have their say. So at what point should you just come in strongly and say, no, we need to do this as it is now to just finish this, to complete this thing. So to avoid maybe those conflicts that are very normal especially in a tech company, which sometimes can be hard, Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, and those conflicts. The question, I mean, we'll answer this more in detail maybe in the afternoon, but let me just say this. If management is not working on projects, and if projects are not management, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Okay, let me clarify something. By management, I mean guys who are doing business. Let's say the marketing team,
That's my point exactly.
Yeah.
You see, Wilberforce, what you are describing is what in organizational terms are called silos. Okay? So what happens is the designers and the engineers hide themselves somewhere in a room and create new products without involving customer-facing people. All right? Without involving customer-facing people. So what are you doing? You're not getting feedback from the market. Yeah? Sometimes it may be an issue. You know, Steve Jobs used to say, the customers don't know what they want. But that's a yes and a no question. Yes.
This is the point where we undervalue value proposition. I think value proposition is the most important skill that Steve. Okay, let me give you an example. I just showed a tool to my brother here. The way we designed it was all from my head. And interestingly, when we pushed it out, it was a bit difficult to sell. But immediately people picked it up. Under 6 months, we had 40,000 downloads of our data sets. So I think that value proposition is important.
But Olu, the value proposition does not sit on an island on its own. The value proposition is supposed to deal with the customer. So let's address this issue of Steve Jobs saying the customer didn't know what they wanted. So let's look at the products that Steve Jobs created. All right? Let's start with the MacBook. All right? Were there computers before the MacBook? There were. So what did Steve Jobs do? He improved on the what? On the customer experience. All right? Let's move to the iPod. Were there no gadgets to listen to music before the iPod? They were there, isn't it? What did Steve Jobs do? What did Steve Jobs do? Again, improve the customer experience. Let's go to the mobile phone, the smartphone. Were there no mobile phones before? Yeah? There was Nokia before the iPhone. There was Ericsson. What did Steve Jobs do again? He improved the customer experience. So what is this business of Steve Jobs saying that the customer didn't know what they wanted?
I actually agree, 100%. But why I highlight?
Olu, if you say you agree 100%, then you say but.
No. Okay, actually, I agree. Okay, for example, we had iPod before iPhone, and people loved iPod. But at the same time, people thought, or Steve Jobs probably in his head thought, why would you carry a phone and at the same time carry something that is basically an MP3?
At that time, it was we talked about convergence.
So
yes,
I think that's why I said that I'm a designer myself, and bulk of the products that we've done that has been successful, at least in Nigeria, is something that, one, was not in existence, and secondly, I had to start reintroducing to people. So
look, if a product was not in existence, it doesn't mean that the customer doesn't know what they want. Ian, you have a burning issue. Please give the the microphone to Ian.
Well, not to totally disagree with you about improving customer experience, but I think Steve Jobs knew how to sell a product to someone. Personally, I think Apple technology is just crappy. It's alien technology. It's a personal opinion. It's very hard to to get accustomed to. If you put an Android device there, an Apple device there, to someone who's new to mobile technology, they will get up and running on the Android in no time. Besides the fact that it's cheap. One Apple, I forgot about the specifics, but the hardware specifications for one Apple device that was released, say they release it today, you will find probably a Samsung manufacturer or a cheaper manufacturer of the same hardware, and it was released maybe a year before that, the same spec. But just because it's an iPhone, because he made his name already, that's the second thing. He was able to sell it better than the person who had the same specs a year ago. So we're talking exactly, that's the thing. That's probably the edge that Steve Jobs had over everyone. Almost the same as, well, these days, if you put a Nike pair of sneakers there, and maybe, what's the cheapest? A Chinese maybe clone of not to downplay the Chinese guys,
Yeah,
but a cheaper version of it here. People go for the Nike because it's the coolest. They made their name already.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But you see, the issue about user experience is also a bit subjective. Yeah. In brand equity, there's something. You see, when a brand is well known and is successful, what is the end result? What is the end result? Sales. Okay? So, you have sales here. Okay? Okay. Are we together? And there are certain brands that don't sell anymore. They're just brands. What do you have? What do you have? Declining sales. Correct? Right? Where do you want to give me brands here that you want to put? Where we know the brands. They are global brands, but they are declining.
BlackBerry.
Nokia. BlackBerry. I mean, Nokia is not even there anymore. It's dead. There's no Nokia. My first phone was a Nokia. Most of us here, at least most of us who are about the same age as me. Yeah? Now, when you have a brand that is well known, and then there is an issue when it comes to sales, it creates what is known as a brand bubble. This is the bubble here. It's a known brand. Even Samsung is going towards there. I'm sorry to say that. It's a fact. Have you seen the latest results on Samsung in terms of sales? Losses in the billions. Okay? Even as we beat up on Apple, they're still here. Google is another one. Think about Google. Think for 1 minute about Google. They don't do hardware. They've started doing hardware in partnership with other companies. Yeah, it's today the most valuable company in the world. That's brand equity, right there. Now, you ask, maybe some of you may ask, how is this related to projects? But projects is at the core of what happens here. It's at the core of what makes a successful brand. So, Ian, the issue about user experience, if you ask me, from a user experience perspective, I have an iPhone. See, today, we all have an average of 3 to 4 screens we look at every day. Who disagrees with me? How many phones do you have? 2. How many computers do you have? Desktop, laptop? 1. 3 screens. Do you have a TV? 4. I rest my case. Okay? So, out of those 4 screens, you probably are using an Android at some point. You're probably watching a TV on a Samsung screen or a LG screen. So you're experiencing all these brands. Are we together? But let me tell you something. From a user experience perspective, from a customer experience perspective, I mean, we want to call it marketing, you want to call it whatever. I don't think there's a brand that has come close to Apple. Even Android is a knockoff of iOS. We all know that. It's a knockoff of iOS, and with a lot of serious fragmentation issues. I'll tell you, Ian, today I have a slide somewhere. I will look for it and I'll share with you in the afternoon. Do you know the reason why? So let's look at Android. And let's look at iOS. Okay? Name for me the brands that use Android. Samsung, HTC, LG, Tecno, Huawei. Okay, let's just stop here and say 1,000 plus Chinese products. Are we in agreement? Are we in agreement? Yes. All right. iOS. Give me the brands that use iOS. Ian. Give me the brands that use iOS.
Apple.
Apple. Number 2?
Apple.
Number 2? Number 3?
Apple.
Now, you tell me where you are going to have design problems and where you are going to have problems to do with quality. Where? Here or here? Okay, who's an app developer here? Ian, who else? You? How long does it take you to get approval to get onto Google Play? How long? 24 hours. Yeah. How long does it take you to get approval to get onto the iOS platform? How much? How long? Yes.
Tato Mingas.
Answer my question first before you ask.
I wouldn't know.
Your name?
Tato Mingas.
Okay.
Yes.
Approximately 2 weeks. I'm coming back to you, don't worry. Approximately 2 weeks. It takes you 3 months. It takes you 3 months, back and forth, before you actually get listed there. Why do you think? What do you think? Look, these guys, look, I'm not saying Android is doing anything wrong. Please, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. Okay? There is a reason why they are doing this, and there is a reason why they are doing this. And they're both not wrong. The thing about it is how effective is it? From a, in Kenya we call it fari-fari. I don't know what you guys call it in Botswana and South Africa. But it's all about the money. Bottom line, look, let nobody cheat you. Even as they talk, it's open source. Huh? It's open source. What do you mean open source? What do you mean? Yes, sir. Sorry, I want that gentleman to first say something. You wanted to say something.
I wanted to say something because exactly about Android, the open source part type, Ravi saying that. I think it's more of a survival strategy. These are very two different companies. Android is trying to survive, and it's going to survive for decades to come.
Yeah.
iOS, it's already on a decline.
Yeah. I agree.
It's
I
my
agree.
perception.
I agree. I totally agree.
All right, guys. Ian, don't dominate my class. Let me ask Komi to say something.
Okay,
I'll come back to you.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this because...
With this?
Yes.
Why?
Because actually, Android is doing a community stuff. Open source, there is a philosophy.
Yeah.
Unless we are just restricting project management or...
You are going to force me to go to my pet subject. Let me tell you something. Anybody who tells you they're giving you something for free,
No.
There's no free lunch. There's no free lunch in this world.
I agree.
Komi, there's no free lunch. So let's be clear. It's a strategy. Okay? But let nobody tell you it's for free. Who's heard of Google now? Who's heard of Google now? You? Who else? Ian? Who else? Ian, please tell us. It's Ian, right? Please tell us what Google now does. William, sorry.
Sorry, I'm William Stuckey. I failed to introduce myself before. Google Maps.
Google Now. Google
Google
Now.
Now.
Yes.
Sorry, I was...
Google Now. Google Now, yes. I want to demonstrate something to Komi because he's very passionate. He's very passionate about this community thing. Where's the other speaker? Mike?
Yeah.
I'm coming back to you, Komi, but yes. What does Google Now do?
It's actually a personal assistant that helps you to navigate or search.
Personal assistant. You know, in our days, a personal assistant is this nice, beautiful-looking girl that you have sitting in front of your desk. That's gone now. So everything is an Android somewhere doing personal. So yes, what does it do? He hasn't finished.
What it does, it helps you to search through Google in a most simplest way.
All right. So let's say, let's demonstrate that. I have just landed in Botswana last night, and I know I'm doing this conference for the next 5 days, for the next 3 days. But I know I have my Friday free. And Friday is most day for us Muslims. So I want to be looking for the Friday mosque. Where do I check? Where do I check? I don't know any Muslim in Botswana. Where do I check? Google. All right? So when I check on Google, what happens? What does Google do on Google Now?
It logs that data.
It logs that data, and what does it do? It serves me what? Custom-made
ads.
Custom-made, location-based ads. My friend, there's no free lunch in this world. Let me express something else. In a marketplace, and for those of you who've heard this, please bear with me. In a marketplace, there are 4 key major ingredients that make a marketplace. The first one is an obvious one, is the platform, which is the market itself, isn't it? Are we together? The second one is what? What's the next thing that makes a marketplace? The buyer. Yeah? The third one? The seller. And the fourth key component? Product or service. So let me ask you, if you're not the platform, you're not the buyer, you're not the seller, what are you? What are you? Hint, you're the product. Now, where's the philanthropy here? Where's the philanthropy about serving community? No, look, I'm not saying it's, again, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. Eh? I'm just saying, if you are the lamb going to the slaughterhouse, please be knowing that you are the lamb going to the slaughterhouse. If you are the buyer or the seller, know you are the buyer or the seller or the platform. Are we together? It's a strategy. And again, time will tell which is the better strategy. But I think already, if you look at the market share of these two, you know where it's heading. Yes, Olu.
I think fundamentally, where Google wins it is anybody who understands the role of data and the future roles of data will understand what Google is doing. Google has gotten everybody to work for them. So anybody using Android is working for Google. So that's just the, for example, the next market for cars, or the next product in cars, which is self-driving cars, it's easy for Google to dominate that industry because fundamentally those cars function on data sets, so which Google has a perfection.
You know, what Olu said is a very critical thing. You know, 2 weeks ago, the CEO of Mercedes was asked, who is your biggest competitor? In a normal world, who do you think Mercedes' biggest competitor would be, Abdallah? In a normal world? Toyota. BMW. I mean Toyota too, because Toyota does Lexus, eh? And Lexus is beating Mercedes hands down in the US. So in a normal world, Toyota, BMW, Audi, VW will be the competitor for Mercedes. Do you know what he answered? He said the companies he fears most is Google and Tesla. Tesla. Google. Surely. But that's the world we are living in today. Okay. So this issue of data. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Lwandle Lubans, or you can call me Lwandle. I just wanted to add my 2 cents to this iOS Android debate. I think the biggest challenge is that probably iOS has is it's a great company. So, I mean, Apple's a great company, it's a great product, but it's not tailored for the developing countries. Their ecosystem is not tailored for developing infrastructure, to developing countries' infrastructure. I can have my Android phone and run it pretty much on 2G networks, 3G networks, get my apps. But the challenge with iOS is probably maybe for some of their products they're geo-locked, even some of their apps are geo-locked, or even when you're trying to register to the App Store, it becomes a challenge. So I think probably if you think of it in that way, I think for me, Android works, especially given the way our network infrastructure is going through a development stage, especially in Africa, where if you go to, I come from Zimbabwe, if I go to rural Zimbabwe and I've got a 2G network, it's really difficult to use an iOS or something like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Couldn't agree with you more. William.
At the risk of derailing the conversation, if you say free products or free things when you're neither the producer or the customer, then you are the product, how does that apply to open source software like Linux?
I think, good question. And there is software and then there is platforms. That's why I said platform. I don't think Linux is a platform. It's an operating system, but it's not a platform as iOS is a platform or Android is a platform. Would you agree with me? iOS is not an operating system. It is an operating system, but it's a platform. Think about Google Play. I mean, think about Apple Music. They launched Apple Music on iOS, and inside 1 month, they made $1 billion. $1 billion. The name operating system is for us techies. But for the market out there, iOS is a platform, just like Android is a platform. So I think that's the fundamental difference. And when I talk about open source in relation to Android, I say it tongue-in-cheek, because you and I know that Android is really, you know, we can have a debate on it. Okay, but my point is that the open source movement was actually started with quite a lot of good philanthropic thinking behind it, right? But it's sort of been hijacked by companies. It's been hijacked, fact. I mean, why do you think Microsoft today is saying that they are embracing open source Linux? Why? Because all of a sudden they've discovered love for everybody? Yeah? So, back to projects, guys. So the project organization. Common project organizational structures, functional. Most of the organization's resources are focused on individual business functions. Each employee has one clear superior. Employees are grouped by specialty or function. Projectized. Most of the organization's resources are involved in project-based work. Each employee reports to a project manager. Employees are grouped by project or portfolio. Metrics. Organizational resources are split between normal business operations and project-based work. Employees typically report to a business manager, but also receive work direction from the project manager. Metrics structures are commonly classified as either strong, balanced, or weak, depending on how resources are aligned. So what you're going to find in a lot of organizations is there's a mix. There's a mix today, because we're all recognizing how important project-based work is. Organizational process-based assets, processes and procedures. So these are, you have templates, you have document artifacts, you have a knowledge base, you have practice guides, you have guidelines, you have work instructions. One of the things in corporate work on knowledge-based work is the use of intranets. And obviously there's a lot of debate how successful and how best to use intranets, but that's not our topic for today. We're just saying this is sort of a repository where people can access information easily. So it could be your Google Docs, it could be your Dropbox, it could even be a social network. Organizational knowledge, configuration management, financial databases, historical information, lessons learned documentation. You want to be able to say, okay, we had this problem. Did somebody else have this problem before? Where can we access that knowledge? How can we learn from the mistakes and from the failures of others? Issues and defect databases and project files. So the project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. Responsibilities and competencies. The project manager accomplishes work through the project team and key stakeholders. Successful project managers balance knowledge, experience, ethics, and a number of interpersonal skills. Again, that leadership issue is coming. So you've got leadership, you've got team building, motivation, communication, influencing, decision-making, political and cultural awareness, negotiation, trust building, conflict management, coaching, leading without direct authority. This is the most important thing, this leading without direct authority. Wilberforce was asking me to explain leading without direct authority. Who wants to help me? Leading without direct authority. Who wants to help me? Are leaders only the general manager or the managing director or the departmental head? Yeah?
Okay, let me
Yes,
give it a
Abdallah.
try. My name is Abdallah. I think it's influence.
Influence?
Influence,
Yes.
having positive influence to the rest of the
Positive influence. Inspiring.
Because that's leadership. Leadership is different from authority.
Knowing how to mobilize resources. Absolutely. Yes.
Leading from the behind, meaning
Leading from behind, I like
meaning
that
leading by an example. So you do things and the team follows.
So let's note down how people lead without direct authority. One. What did you say? Ability to mobilize. Two. Inspire, which is almost saying the same thing as number two. Number three. Sorry, I can't hear her. Planning activities. We're talking about leading without direct authority. Influence. How do you gain influence? Deborah, how do you gain influence? By example. How do you choose? How, Wilberforce, in a setup of software developers, do you choose a leader? You may have a project leader that is the designated project manager, but usually what happens? Usually what happens in a project team, especially software developers, what happens? People coalesce around an informal leader, isn't it? Is that correct? Why? Why do you think? What makes all these other developers coalesce around that person? I'm looking for two words. He's good? Yeah? He's superb? The step up? The step up? Results? Domain expertise. Would you agree? I have a problem with this code. Something is not working. instinctively I turn to this guy who sorts me out. And then others do the same. Why do others go to him or her? Hmm? Do you know the current CEO of Google? Not Alphabet, Google. Sundar Pichai. That's how he got to be CEO. Domain expertise. He was the go-to guy to solve issues. He was nowhere near executive level at that time. He rose almost from nowhere. Leading without direct authority is the surest way to becoming a great leader. Because nobody is putting a crown on your head. Yes, sir.
I just had a question.
Yeah.
Could incentive be, let's say you give your team incentives?
Incentive is always a part of projects, absolutely. But incentives depends. Money, you see today, I'm not saying money is not important again, but I think people are aspiring to a higher calling. Why am I here for 5 days? I'm sure Kivuva can't pay me enough. I just love what I do. And you guys love what you do too. That's why you are here for 5 days. Yeah? I think this group here is the best example of what I'm talking about. Especially during Ramadan when Abdallah and our wives will be, sorting us out in the evenings with really good, nice food and all that. But we're here spending time with people we are meeting for the first time, and we get to make friends and all that, because that's who we are. All right? And these are the things that you never get told in a project management, formal project in the management class. These salient things that actually make teams work. Yeah? So project resources and stakeholders, individuals, groups, organizations who may be affected by or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. I think let's take the open source movement as a project for 1 minute. And let's understand how and why it's become so successful. William, you want to share with us? Why do you think the open source movement has become so successful to the extent that the Microsofts of this world have just said, we want to join?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question. For a very long time, Linux was a solution looking for a problem. And the open source operating systems in particular have only become popular and have only started taking a significant share of the market once you ceased having to be a geek to be able to drive it. The window pointer model, the WIMP model, that Xerox, window mouse pointer model that Xerox pioneered at Palo Alto with the Spark station, was copied both by Microsoft and by Apple, by the way. Apple's claims of inventing it are entirely untrue. And it's only when things like Linux, particularly with the advent of Ubuntu Linux, made that as the default approach rather than the command line, that it started becoming popular with the non-geeks. What is the benefit for Joe Public, who's not interested in looking at the open source code? The benefit is that he doesn't have to pay a license fee. And that's basically what it boils down to. In terms of how you use this software or this operating system or that operating system, which one works best for you is a function of what you are good at, how you understand it, and what your application is. And there is no perfect operating system for anything. I've used over a dozen, I know.
William, thank you very much. I think you're very, very right. But I will also add this. I mean, open source and all that became popular when they started being used, more popular. You know, the geeks of this world have always used this. But when they became easy enough for Joe Public to be able to use it, to paraphrase William, is when we started understanding. Remember, Android was bought by Google. Google didn't start Android. Yeah? I think sometimes we do forget that. But I think the most fundamental thing that made these things work is this. Teams that were passionate with what they were doing. And the money issue is almost a side effect. Do you know one of the most successful companies in the IT world today? Successful, one of the most successful in terms of profitability. Red Hat. I recommend for you all to read the book, The Open Organization, by the founders and the CEO of Red Hat, how that company operates. These guys can tell the CEO, no, that idea doesn't work. We're not going to do it. That's it. In a normal organization, what do you think is going to happen when you tell your CEO, I'm not going to do it? Insubordination, blah, 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 you're fired, you lose all your pension. That's what Red Hat. Red Hat only uses open source software. They charge for their services, not the license. IBM has tried to imitate them. Microsoft has tried. These guys are moving from strength to strength. I think it was Warren Buffett who said that passion doesn't follow money. Money follows passion. What time do we need to wind up? Okay, I think I'll stop here until afternoon. I will take one or two comments or questions, then we get back at 2 o'clock sharp. Yes.
About why crowdsource or open source is becoming successful, I think another fundamental thing that I wanted to point out was value exchange, basically. For example, like Google and the users now is a value exchange. But at some point, users will get to sort of give Google more value than they're giving out.
Absolutely. Any other comments, questions? I'll take 2 more, and then we'll break off for lunch.
This question is about project management. What is your view of the modern workspace regarding project management? Because things are diverse. We have millennials coming in with different mindsets of working. We have so many tools which people can use online, like Slack, where you can just be chatting people. And what can companies do to just make sure that they get most out of the modern workspace? Yeah.
I think what Wilberforce has said has asked or commented on is important. What I'll say is this: the basic principles of project management, marketing management, don't really change. They are enhanced and improved by technological processes. All right? So today, we are better off, a lot of people, companies that have used Slack, for example, have found that email traffic has dropped by 40%. That means they're just communicating better and making project management even more effective. Yeah, so the idea is that the workspace is changing, the tools may change, the principles don't.
It's just a contribution. Thank you so far on behalf of everyone. I'm sure we've had some eye-opening discussions. My favorite was on the previous slide where we spoke about process-based assets, and I think it's important to emphasize processes and procedures, the importance of those as startups, and also how to manage organizational knowledge. It also points to what she spoke about earlier about ISO standards. I think I've also noticed that as entrepreneurs, we came about our ideas, like, or when maybe we were taking a bath. It all happened sort of random, but it's important to have systems of managing the work that we do. So thank you for it.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy your lunch. For my Muslim brothers and sisters, Ramadan Kareem. Yeah. And we'll see you back here at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, a clap. Now, in the afternoon, we'll have project management or project communication. Yeah, we'll finish this and then we'll have project communication, so we want you to be here on time by 2. And when you are going for lunch, please pick your lunch vouchers. Most of you are new. You have not been here before, so pick your lunch vouchers near the secretariat. So that's all. Please, at 2. Let's be here at 2. Good.